Roman Church still boasts these two colours. I remember when I was a priest in Rome in 1963 going into 1964, and I went to the Vatican Council II as it was in session, and I saw the square filling up with 3,000 prelates pouring into the square after one of the sessions of the council, and I saw that the colours were scarlet and purple, and I was taken aback because even as a Catholic priest I knew what Revelation said, and this was real, and this is the real colours of Rome, and this is what was prophesied of her. And that's only one of the details. She holds the golden cup. She is the only system that has drunk the blood of the saints over such a long period of time. This is fact. It is not something that is surmised. This can be verified on the pages of history.
The Roman Catholic Church today still maintains the canon laws that she used as her authority to torture and murder Bible believers for over 600 years.
And it is not just that she held these things in the past. She still holds in the present day teachings that you must submit to her. And she says that she has the right to coerce Christian people. This is in modern canon law, in Canon 1311, quotation, "The Church has an innate and proper right to coerce offending members of the Christian faithful by means of papal sanctions," end of quotation. The Catholic Church also holds to the fact that she can demand a submission of intellect and will. Now we know that submission of intellect and will is usually a hallmark of a cult, and we wouldn't expect that the church that holds itself to be a true Bible or true church would in any way in its writings hold to this, but she does in fact. In the famous Canon 752 she says the following, quotation, "A religious respect of intellect and will, even if not the assent of faith, is to be paid to the teaching of the Supreme Pontiff or College of Bishops, enunciate on faith and morals," which the Supreme Pontiff or College of Bishops enunciate on faith and morals. So what the Supreme Pontiff, the Supreme Mediator, says, or his College of Bishops, on faith and morals, you have to submit your intellect and will. And this is the same teaching. It is not upheld with the rigors of the past, or there are no sanctions like the past, but the same mindset is there. And I think that we have to see that, and we have to realize that Bible believers were fortified. They saw what the Apostle Peter said, kept by the power of God. And they were kept by the power of God, and their faith resounded at that time before the throne of God. And it still resounds on the pages of history for those who dare read the true historical accounts.
Why would the Church that claims to be a humanitarian loving organization continue to write those canons into her modern law? Could it be that the Roman Catholic Church is still using those laws and maintaining that same mindset in our day and age?
Well, it's certainly among the best kept secrets of the history of the 20th century that an Inquisition which was as severe as in previous centuries that we've been discussing did take place at the time of the Second World War. Just to give you a little background first, in 1929 Benito Mussolini signed the Lateran Treaty with the Pope of the time, Pope Pius XI, officially conceding Vatican Hill to the Pope. In other words, the Vatican to be set up again as a political entity. The papacy once again became a sovereign civil state. The legal agreement with Mussolini was just the beginning of the concordats that were to be established with many nations, perhaps the most infamous being the one between Pope Pius XII and Adolf Hitler. And the Vatican formed alliances with the following Roman Catholic dictators, among others: Benito Mussolini, Adolf Hitler, Francisco Franco in Spain, Antonio Salazar in Portugal, Juan Perón in Argentina, but the most brutal and bloodthirsty of all of them was Anton Pavelić in Croatia. According to a memorandum in the documents of the United States Army's Counterintelligence Corps, dated the 12th of September 1947, agents hunting escaped Nazi war criminals after World War II purposely avoided capturing one man because, to quote the document, his contacts are so high and his present position so compromising to the Vatican that any extradition of the subject would deal a staggering blow to the Roman Catholic Church. The man was Anton Pavelić, head of the new nation-state of Croatia, carved out of Yugoslavia during the war. During Pavelić's 4-year reign, he and Roman Catholic prelate Archbishop Alois Stepinac pursued a convert or die policy among the 900,000 approximately Greek Orthodox Serbs, Jews and others in Croatia. 200,000 were converted. 700,000 who chose to die were tortured, burned, buried alive or shot after digging their own graves. This appalling persecution was carried out by the Ustashis, including many of the worst atrocities of the whole Second World War. Certainly the mutilations were horrific and the savagery was terrible. The Catholic Church did not leave the execution of a religious war to the secular arm on this occasion. She was there herself, openly ignoring precautions and bolder than she had been for a very long time. Wielding the hatchet or dagger, pulling the trigger, organizing the massacre, the Roman Catholic priesthood became again its own instrument of inquisition. Many of the Ustashi officers were priests or friars who were sworn to fight with dagger or gun for, quote, the triumph of Christ and Croatia. Priests played a prominent role in the closing or takeover of the Serbian Orthodox churches, the seizure of church records and the interrogation of the Serbian Orthodox clergy as well. They also supervised the concentration camps and organized the torture of many of the victims. And this is all happening in the 20th century. French author Edmond Paris, who was born a Roman Catholic, has written a very thorough account of this terrible massacre in his book Convert or Die, and he wrote, "It's difficult for the world to believe that a whole people could be doomed to extermination by a government and religious hierarchy of the 20th century just because it happened to belong to another ethnical and racial group and had inherited the Christianity of the Byzantium kind instead of the Roman kind. The world does not in fact know and is thus unable to understand fully all this background in the Second World War to what happened in the Balkan Wars of the 1990s in Yugoslavia after the Vatican, note the Vatican, led Western nations in recognizing Croatia as an independent sovereign state. And of course, immediately hostilities broke out between the Croats and the Serbs, given this background of what took place in the Second World War. British historian and journalist Andrew Roberts of the Sunday Telegraph expressed surprise in that newspaper